So we saw a question where we elaborately drawn diagrams and kind of explained on how to obtain compass heading and magnetic heading given true heading with using variation and deviation. That's what we saw yesterday. You can learn another question here given. True heading is equal to 120 degrees. Magnetic heading is 125 degrees. And compass heading is 115 degrees. Find number 1, variation. Number 2, deviation. So here you are given the headings, you have to find out the variation and deviation, right? So here, given true magnetic and compass headings, the connection between the true heading and the magnetic heading is what is called as variation. So variation gets applied here. And the connection between magnetic heading and compass heading is deviation, right? So what is the definition for variation? It is the angular
difference
between the true heading and the magnetic heading measured from the true heading in degrees east or west. If the variation is easterly, it means magnetic heading is east of true heading, because true heading is a reference, because that is what we want. Yeah, and if the variation is westerly, it means magnetic heading is left of true heading. And we have seen that if the variation is west, then the magnetic is having a higher value, and if the variation is east, then the magnetic will be a lesser value or least. Now, what about deviation? Deviation is the angular difference between magnetic heading
and the compass
heading measured from the
east or west.
Yes, measured from the magnetic heading east or west of the magnetic heading, right? So the deviation can be expressed in east or west of magnetic heading, or it can be expressed as plus or minus, because it is more like a correction as against variation. Again, easterly deviation means the compass is going to be lesser, and because we are comparing it with magnetic, because that is what we want. But unfortunately, because of the aircraft's magnetism, there is an error, which is called deviation. And if that is westerly, it means the compass is more than the magnetic heading. Therefore, variation west, compass is west. Right? Yes. So here we are given the true heading. So the reference for true heading is true north. Right? Now, how do you draw the heading here? It's always measured clockwise from the true north. You measure 120 degrees clockwise, this is 90, 120 degrees clockwise, and that is the heading of the aircraft. Right? And now here, this angle is measured clockwise.
120 degrees.
120 degrees true. Alright, now your reference is your aircraft. Right? Because we don't know where to place your magnetic north or compass north now. We can only start with true north. Now we will see what happens. Here we are given the magnetic heading as 125. So what we can do is, from your aircraft's heading, you can now just measure 125 in the opposite direction, and then you'll be able to place your magnetic north. Right? Yes, so let's place that. So from the aircraft, we now measure 125 degrees. Remember, the measurements are always in the clockwise direction. But since we don't have the reference here, we are trying to find the reference in the anti-clockwise direction. That's all. So from here, when I measure 125, this is 120, I have to go further to the west by 5 degrees, right? So you can see going further to west by 5 degrees itself will give an indication of the variation, right? So this is the magnetic north, measured from true north towards magnetic north. That angle is what is called as variation. So this, what is total heading? This is the magnetic heading, which is given as 125 degrees, right? Therefore, you can see that this small angle is 5 degrees, therefore the variation is going to be 5 degrees. Yes, and then what can you say about the sign? Variation is 5 degrees, east to west.
It's west.
It's west. Why? Because magnetic north is west of true north.
West of true north.
Right? Yes. West. Good. Now let's look at the compass heading here. So compass heading is 115 degrees. Again, since we cannot place the reference straight away, we have to measure it from the heading of the aircraft. Now in the anti-clockwise direction by 115 degrees. So you can see this total is 120. So 115 degrees is 5 degrees to the right of true north.
Yeah.
Right? This is going to be your
Compass north.
compass north. And from the compass north, measured clockwise will be
Will give us 115 degrees.
5 degrees. This is the compass heading. Right? And now you can see that to understand deviation, we should not consider true north. It's between the magnetic north and the compass north, measured from the magnetic north. So measured from the magnetic north towards compass north, what is the angle here?
It is 10 degrees.
10 degrees. So it's 5 degrees over here, and this you can see it is 120, this is 115, therefore it's another 5 degrees here,
This is east.
right? And therefore the total will be 10 degrees. Yes, 10 degrees east. Why is it east?
Because that compass north is east of the magnetic.
So compass north is east of magnetic north, so it's 5 degrees east. That's it. That brings us to the answer. Variation is 10 degrees east. Sorry, deviation is 10 degrees east.
Or else we can also say plus 10 degrees.
Or, very good, or you can say it is plus 10 degrees. Now what you have to understand here is, this plus is always applied to the compass heading. What is the error here? Which of these values, magnetic or compass, is the wrong one?
The compass one is a
The compass is the wrong one, influenced by the aircraft magnetism. So the correction has to be always applied to the compass. So I apply plus 10 to 115, I'll get 125. So this correction or the deviation is always applied to the compass heading to get the magnetic heading. That's how it works, right? So in the question you can see that they have given my true heading. The true heading is 120 degrees. Then they have given me the magnetic heading, which is 125 degrees. And then we have the compass heading, which is 115 degrees. So what connects between true and magnetic is the variation, and magnetic and compass is the deviation. Now you can see here that magnetic is more than true, or magnetic is best, which means the variation has to be west, right? And the difference is 5 degrees. So variation is 5 degrees west. If you look at these two, again you can see the magnetic is best, or we can say compass is least here, right? And so the difference is going to be 10 degrees. And since the compass is least, the deviation has to be east, or as you rightly said, it is plus 10 degrees, right? So here we can see that the magnetic west, and therefore the variation has to be west. Here the compass is least, and therefore deviation is east. Now the confusing part here generally I have seen is deviation east means is magnetic least or compass least. That's a very common confusion. It's always compass least, right? We have the reference as magnetic, and therefore we're comparing the other one. Here we have the reference as true, therefore we are comparing the other one, which is magnetic. Yeah. Alright? And this is how we explain it using a diagram. As I told you, you can use this for your exams. This is a very easy technique, but this is for your understanding purpose. Alright, yes. So let's draw a box. Next question you can see there. Compass heading is given. You're given heading magnetic. You have to find out deviation. Here we need to consider only C and M. So the connecting factor is D here. V and T is not there. Yeah, so what is C here? 115 degrees compass and 100 degrees magnetic. Therefore, what is the difference here? The difference is 15 degrees. And what can you say about the direction?
Magnetic.
Therefore, 15 degrees west is the deviation, or in sign, how can you say that? It is minus 15 degrees. Alright, let's put the diagram in place again. So we have the magnetic and the compass here. So the magnetic heading is 100 degrees. To draw the magnetic heading, I have to first draw the magnetic north. Let's draw the aircraft. Magnetic heading is 100 degrees, which means I measure clockwise 100. And this angle is 100 degrees magnetic. Yes. Now the compass heading is 115 degrees. To find the compass north from the aircraft, you can now go anti-clockwise, and this itself is 100. Therefore, 115 is going to take you 15 degrees to the west of magnetic north, and therefore that's going to be here. This is the compass heading, and you measure from the compass heading clockwise now back. This is going to be your compass, the compass north, and from compass north clockwise, the new compass heading 115 degrees compass. And therefore, you can see this angle between the magnetic north and compass north, measured from the magnetic north. How much is that? This is 115, this is 100, therefore it is 15 degrees. Now you can see that the compass north is west of magnetic north, and therefore the deviation is 15 degrees west or minus 15 degrees. Right? Happy with the question? Right?